The Blue Jackets have been one of the hottest teams in hockey over the past couple months, transforming them from being a team destined for a top 10 draft pick into a team that is now a legitimate playoff contender, currently holding a wild card spot at the moment. It's been a beautiful thing to watch, but as we have been quickly reminded by these past couple of games, the goal scoring has just not been there. The Blue Jackets have been playing a great game of shutdown defense and stellar goaltending for the most part, but the Jackets currently sit 27th in the league as far as goals per game are concerned, which is a glaring hole for the team. With the trade deadline looming, the question of whether or not the Jackets should go out and trade for a forward has come about multiple times now, and I've gone back and forth on this one, considering do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it. I think it's going to come down to one thing, and that is what's being given up. Because this team is a lot different than the team from last season. Last season, going into the trade deadline, you knew Panarin was walking, you knew Bobrovsky was walking, and the Blue Jackets would say, we got to try to win now. This might be our best chance to contend for the Stanley Cup for some time. Let's go out there and trade whatever we have to for that chance right now. This year has been a year, if anything, proving that the Blue Jackets are going to be a team that can contend for a Stanley Cup or at least a playoff spot for many years to come without a rebuild in sight. A young D core, great goaltending. The core of this team is still at a point where I think you can say they have a higher ceiling. Nobody's really reached that ceiling. A lot of these guys can continue to get better. And it's important to note something like that when you're considering trading pieces away, because you got to realize the current state of the team. Or are they in a rebuilding phase? Are they in a this is the last year phase? Or are they in a we have a young core that's going to continue to blossom and get better and better? This team's only going to get stronger from year to year phase, and that is the exact phase I think the Blue Jackets are currently in. And for that reason, it does not make a sense to go all in here and force a trade if not need be. It'd be great to have a forward, but at the same time, I don't think it's a great idea right now for the Blue Jackets to say, let's go out and trade away more draft picks. You know, it's the first and second round picks I'm thinking of here. If they could get a forward for a third or a fourth, hey, that'd be great. Because here's the other thing. You look at, oh, we're going to trade for a forward. Okay, well, guess where half of our team is already? They're all on the IR. You got Atkinson, you got Wenberg, Texier, all these guys that could fill that top 6 role, top 9 role. I don't know how generous you want to be with some of them, but there's a lot of good players on this Blue Jackets team currently injured. Seth Jones just got added to the injury list. It really, because of Seth Jones, I think throws a curveball into everything where it certainly does not make sense for the Blue Jackets to go out there and rent a player when you consider he might not be back until the second or third round of playoffs. And then you're assuming you get to the second or third round of playoffs. If not, you just wasted trading away the future. So again, not a fan at all of the Blue Jackets going out there and renting players, especially considering I like to be a little bit more optimistic, thinking these Blue Jackets guys, when these forwards can come off IR, they'll provide that spark to the offense that the offense ever so desperately needs, and they can make that push further into playoffs if they can. Because I'll tell you what, you get to the playoffs, you get them low scoring games, this team is set up to make a playoff run if they can grind goals across the board. I think of guys like maybe Kovalchuk, but last I heard, I think it was a couple seconds Montreal wanted for him. I don't know how I feel about that, but a Kovalchuk's the type of guy that feels like a good fit where I don't think the asking price is too ridiculously high because he is a defensive liability. I don't think you want him out there 20 minutes a night, but what this guy can do for a Blue Jackets team that is struggling on the power play, struggling offensively, and this guy is a power play specialist that will score you goals. He can be a big boost to a Blue Jackets team. Any kind of player like that, I'd be on board for getting, but again, the price has to be right, because even with him, you consider he's going to be on this team for 1 year. What would the Blue Jackets have possibly done at that first round pick or that second round pick? I don't think the Blue Jackets are an organization that are in the position to trade away future like some of these other teams can afford to do. You don't really have those, you know, like the Crosby the Malkin story where the Penguins can do that. Well, they have Crosby and Malkin. We don't have Crosby and Malkin over here in Columbus, all right? Would love to have them. I mean, we might have the Crosby and Malkin of the defense. Might be a little bit of a biased opinion there, but I keep thinking of like guys like this Zingle, you know, a couple second round picks for a guy that really did not turn out the way I think the Blue Jackets were expecting. And the thing with the Blue Jackets is when you consider draft picks, and the reason I'm mainly really not on board, again, building from within, a team that's young, they're going to keep getting better, but they've done a great job of drafting over the years. Their first, second, even, you know, the later round picks, the Blue Jackets have done a great job of bringing in guys that can contribute to this team. And they've, you know, been top 6, top 4D guys. Same story there. And you think, is it really worth the rental if you think this Blue Jackets team is going to be good for the next 5 to 10 years? I don't think so, because it's a 3-month rental compared to a guy that could be under team control for 6 years. Again, it's ifs and buts for that guy that you draft, but I'm just not on board for it. But it's not just been trade the draft picks for a player type of situation here. There's been a lot of talk about the Blue Jackets trading away a defenseman for a forward, and this one has interested me. Originally, I thought no chance. I can't give up Savard, can't give up Werenski. Sure as heck ain't giving up Jones. I think those guys are very big pieces of this team. And I know Savard's name's been brought up of the three of them. Savard's kind of been the guy thrown out there. And it's like, I don't think so. No, because the reason being, Savard's not that offensive, dominant for defenseman. So he's not got them gaudy numbers that says, oh, okay, we're going to pay this much for him because he's a really good player and a really good defender. He's just a really, really good defender. And I don't think any team's going to equate the value that I would put on David Savard. I think this guy's a very big key to this defense. Seems like he's always out there on the ice making big plays. Again, maybe he's not offensive dominant. Doesn't matter. You need those stay-at-home guys that play really well defensively. He fits this system well. I could not see us trading Savard and being acceptable, happy with whoever we get in return. I just can't imagine the return being big enough. But then the bigger thing comes up where you start to think about this Seattle expansion. The Seattle expansion, not this year, but next year, there's going to be a draft. And you best believe with how good this defense of the Blue Jackets has been, how good this young decor is, that the odds are they're going to take somebody from this defense. And then you start thinking, who are they going to take? Nudavara, Murray, I think those are both guys that are Harrington. They're all guys that are eligible to be taken. And I guess I'm leaning towards thinking Murray here because he's so injury prone. And I think there's still a lot of teams that, value him because he is a younger defenseman. He has been good when he does play. But would you be willing to trade a Ryan Murray for a top 6 forward? I think that is when the question that I would say maybe, probably, because if Seattle's going to take the guy like that next year. We've seen what happened last time the expansion came around. The Blue Jackets gave away a first-round pick and William Karlsson, which was a lot, just to throw it out there. Probably better than the Jack Johnson they could have taken. Sorry, Jack Johnson. One of those things, though, I'm always thinking about the future. And if the Blue Jackets are going to lose a defenseman next year, the ideal time to trade one of them away would be this year before, you get to that latter half of next year when teams know you're trying to dump these guys to get something. So the expansion draft does not take them. That is when players go down in value. So I do feel like from a defensive standpoint, this might be the best chance if the Blue Jackets are looking in that direction to trade one of those guys instead of taking a chance in the expansion of them being selected. This would be the time to do it. You don't want to wait until next year when it's obvious. And not to mention, it puts these guys that are defensemen that are under team control. The reason you get more in return for some of these guys, and if you would go down the defender route, I think a lot of people like the defender route, is because you would trade a defender away that's under team control for more than just a rental and get a forward that is coming back again for more than just a rental. I think that is the best case scenario here for the Blue Jackets, unless you want to go, again, you want to try the top 6 rental for Ryan Murray. I think you would, even then, I would prefer to see the Blue Jackets trade somebody like that, trade a defenseman in return for a guy that is not a rental, but a guy that's under team control for 1, 2, 3, 4, however many years, whatever it be. But I do feel like the important thing here for the Blue Jackets is don't force anything. That is the message of the day, is do not force a trade just to force a trade. The Blue Jackets are not in a position to say we have to win right now. It's a team that is built for the long haul. There's no reason to, tear apart something that's going great, which the defense is going great, right? It's the second best defense in the league, short of the Bruins as far as a goals against perspective. I don't see a reason to say, hey, let's tear that apart just to get one forward and risk seeing that defense deteriorate just for the offense to get a little bit better when the defense is the reason we're winning games in the first place.